Hey there, welcome to Total Geek Live Presents. I am Baltimore. I am here today to bring you one of my most favorite Marvel events of the past ever. I am here today to talk to you about Secret Invasion. And I absolutely love this event. I love all the tie-ins. I love everything. I'm down for all of it. I am a big, huge fan of this. This event is an 8-issue miniseries written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Lionel Francis Yu. This is beautiful. You know, he does turn in amazing pages. He's a really, really great artist. I love his line work. It's really, really fun. And this was kind of like the culmination of a lot of years of setup that we didn't even know was happening until you're like, oh my God, I'm putting all the pieces together and this is really happening. So I really love this series. Basically, it talks about the Skrulls invading Earth. And if you don't know what the Skrulls are, they are a shape-shifting race of aliens. Green, crazy little chin things. And they can shift into anybody they want to. And they can also assume the powers with, a little bit of their Skrull magic or whatever. So this event takes place, like I said, in 8 issues in 2008. But to talk about it, it kind of has its beginnings in Secret War. So way back then, there was some like hinky-janky stuff that you're like, what? I don't understand what happened. Why is this person here? They're not acting like they're supposed to be acting. Well, that can all be explained by saying they're a Skrull. Yeah. So, pretty crazy stuff. So we have the Skrulls coming into Earth and, replacing heroes, replacing shield agents, replacing people all over the place. And you have the Skrulls coming in and replacing superheroes. You have them replacing shield agents. You have them replacing people in power all over the globe. And it's frightening because they were able to do this for however many years before. So this kind of actually takes place way back in the Kree-Skrull War, the after effects of that. So the Illuminati, which is basically a clandestine group of the heroes, which includes Professor X from the X-Men, Black Bolt from the Inhumans, Black Panther from Wakanda, you have Mr. Fantastic from Fantastic Four, you have Iron Man from the Avengers, and you have Doctor Strange. So the 6 of them are kind of create this Illuminati is kind of to protect Earth from any more invasions or any more things, although they weren't super great on that one either. But they are basically from all different facets of the Marvel Universe group-wise. So they are captured by the Skrulls, and they are in, basically tortured. They are studied by the Skrulls to figure out how they think, what's going on, and what they can do to stop them from, destroying the Skrull world. So Princess Varanki, who is the princess of the Skrull Empire, and in fact actually becomes the Empress because of lineage and the preceding death, she decides that Earth is rightfully theirs. And she is going to go along with the Skrull invasion and take control of Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman is captured and taken away, and Princess Varanki, Empress Varanki, takes her place. And she is going to I'll just be Spider-Woman because no one really cares about her. No one really is like, where's Spider-Woman? What's she doing? What's going on with her? And then there's the breakout, the beginning of New Avengers. And she is brought in unwittingly to be part of that team. And she's like, well, great, now I'm a part of this team. Well, maybe I can use it to my advantage, which she does. And so this takes place after the Civil War. So there's still those kind of rumblings going on. You have some split in the Avengers team, and Spider-Woman as Varanki is playing both sides, the Secret Avengers, and the Mighty Avengers. So she's kind of playing those 2 different teams against each other, trying to figure out how she can best manipulate them. So this all kind of comes to a head when the New Avengers are fighting Elektra, and they end up killing her. And when she's there lying dead, she reverts to a Skrull. And all the New Avengers, Luke Cage, Wolverine, they're like, what the? So they're like, well, if she's a Skrull, who else could be Skrulls? And they have no way to really kind of figure out who's a Skrull and who's not. So they are, it's a big trust issue. And that was one of the taglines, which was really cool. It's who do you trust? So that was kind of a fun little tagline that they used for marketing purposes, which was a really good effect. So the new Avengers are going through their problems. We also have Nick Fury, who discovered that the secret invasion was happening, the Skrull invasion was happening. So he goes undercover, underground, cuts ties with all the people and kind of trying to piece together, okay, so this person's probably Skrull, but this person isn't, this person is, so how do we figure out their connection and who are the other Skrull agents? So he's kind of gone to ground and doing that. But he also sets up a new team called the Secret Warriors, I actually really loved this team. It was a really fun team, led by Quake, Daisy Johnson, who you don't know from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it's basically descendants of previously either heroes or villains and their progeny. So it's them coming together as kind of a group of superpowered people under his orders and doing his bidding, as a secret team. And so they're also kind of tracking this as they are going. So the Skrull invasion, after we find out that, Elektra's a Skrull, the whole superhuman community is up in arms. They're like, what's happening? Iron Man doesn't know about it. We have Mr. Fantastic trying to figure it out, what's going on. And, through the next few months, we have the infiltration prelude, basically, to the event. And it's where you actually find out when these characters were taken off the board and replaced with a Skrull. So that was kind of neat to see how it kind of all plotted in. And they actually did a really good job of kind of weaving in old storylines and making them make sense into the new ones, so that you're like, okay, yeah, I believe that Skrull's been here for X amount of months, years, or whatever. And then you have, well, exactly who in the Marvel Universe is the real person, and then where did they go? Where have they been for however long they've been off the board, so to speak. So we have a lot of things kind of ramping up, and Varenki decides, okay, now we're gotta take over. We gotta do it. We gotta do it now. We gotta do it hard and fast and completely. They launch a two-pronged attack. One on the Sword space station, the Peak, which is kind of in Earth's orbit, kind of protecting everybody from alien invasions. Good job there. And then they also attack the helicarrier with, as Maria Hill's trying to figure out what's going on and finding out that all these people are freaking Skrulls. And then they also attack Thunderbolt Mountain, and they also attack the Baxter Building. Actually, they transport the Baxter Building into the negative zone, so that's like, oh crap. But right before that, Reed Richards kind of figures out, okay, I've made a device that will help me detect who is actual Skrull agent. And right about 10 seconds after he did that, his buddy Hank Pym, oh yeah, that's not Hank Pym. It's a Skrull. And he, kidnaps Mr. Fantastic and takes him off-world. So he's like, oh crap, Hank Pym? He's a Skrull? How long has he been a Skrull? And he kind of had his hands in a lot of candy dishes for a long time. So it kind of, makes his past, actions very questionable. Like, well, what about this? And what about this? Because he's had a quite a storied past. So that was kind of, fascinating, reveal. And then they go to the Savage Land, and they're trying to find out who these rogue Skrull S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are. The Avengers are down there, and out of the blue, a Skrull ship crash lands. It's probably one of the best splash panels ever. The ship doors open, and out walks Marvel heroes from every single generation, from every single era, from the 70s, 80s, 90s, all of them. And you're like, what about? And there she. And you're like, oh my god. And you're like, these are all the heroes that have been captured and replaced. Except that the Skrulls are sneaky little, and they've intermingled real Skrulls with the real heroes. And so no one knows who's a real Marvel hero and who's a Skrull hero. Well, the Skrulls do. But it's called part of this trust thing. It's like crazy. And you have the heroes fighting against each other, and like, oh, they're going to fight against the Wolverine, and then they find out that he's the real Wolverine. Then they fight against Spider-Man, then find out he's the real Spider-Man, and then they end up killing other Skrulls, and like, okay, So Captain America is a Skrull. Now, what about what? Yeah, what? Um, and then probably one of the best and most lasting effects from the Skrulls is the return of Mockingbird. Mockingbird, who I love dearly. I loved her character for so many years and was heartbroken when she died in Avengers West Coast at the end of that series. It was a tragic, heartbreaking, and solid death for her. Um, and now it's retconned that that wasn't her. That was a Skrull, who surprisingly didn't change back into a Skrull. Oh wait, that's yeah. But this is the real deal. This is Bobby Moore. She's back, and I loved it because we got her character back, and I loved the character of Mockingbird. I was kind of sad because yes, it does kind of cheapen the death back in the Avengers West Coast issue, but they've dealt with that issue. That death still has the meaning it does. So it's not like washed over, and it still can have the effect that it did back then. But I'm really excited. I was really excited we got Bobby back. It was really cool. So then we have all the Avengers, all the heroes trying to figure out what's going on. There's a Skrull virus that infects Iron Man, so he's kind of taken off the board. They kind of have to figure out how to save the world. And what I really loved about this, and yes, of course, there are a lot of tie-ins, but they're really good, and they all take, different stories that you weren't kind of expecting, but you kind of feel they should have been, a part of. You have Captain Britain and MI13, and they were talking about the Skrull invasion there, the secret invasion, and John the Skrull was a team member, so that was kind of like a fun little. And that was really cool. You have the God Squad and Hercules, which is a grouping of various Pantheon members: Snowbird, Hercules. You have a lot more, and they're going after and trying to figure out what's going on. And one thing I haven't mentioned is Brian made one phrase a completely super creepy phrase. Now, whenever I hear it, it's "He loves you." He loves you. And this is what the Skrulls say to anyone they're about to kill or maim or whatever, to further their goals. And you're like, who is this he? What's going on? And why do you keep saying that? But it turns out this he is a Skrull god. And he is the one who is saying that Earth is rightfully the Skrulls. They should keep on doing what they're doing, and they will be rewarded. So it's this really kind of fun religious bent that you didn't think about, and you got it, and it was really cool. So that was a really fun tie-in. You have a really cool tie-in with X Factor and She-Hulk. Those were both written by Peter David, which you have Longshot and Darwin and She-Hulk going along for this crazy ride where you have, is Longshot a Skrull? Is Darwin a Skrull? What's happening? And then She-Hulk has a companion, Jacinda, who is a Skrull. So there's a whole bunch of like, what? So that was a lot of fun. That was a great little crossover between the two of them in this secret invasion. So there's a lot of fun things. And then there were some, big heavy things. You have the X-Men at this point were in San Francisco, and Beast has to do a pretty dire thing to stop the invasion on the West Coast under Cyclops' order. So that's it was a really interesting moment, and this is when this was a fun era because you had all X-Men on deck kind of thing. Everyone who was an X-Men, or all the mutants who were there were basically deemed X-Men. So you had these really cool street teams going out, and they were all trying to stop the Skrulls, and then you have Beast kind of doing some bioengineering and kind of started him off on a downward spiral that we still see effects to this day. So that was kind of a pretty big moment, even though they weren't super involved in the whole main series. And then you also have the Hood, who is one of the criminals of the Marvel Universe, and he's pulls together a whole group of criminals and helps fight back against the Skrulls because no Earth is bad for business, and that's kind of an appropriate villain response to this. And he's able to fight them off in his own way, with his villainous compatriots. And so this all takes place, this all builds to a head, and there's a huge fight in Central Park. And so this is super iconic. You have all the heroes coming together. You have the Secret Warriors coming together. You have the Hoods team. You have the Thunderbolts. You have the Avengers, both groups. And they're all fighting against the Skrulls and Varanki, who is, the Skrull. And, one of the things that was really fascinating, that's a repercussion of this, is throughout most of the entire thing, she wore Jessica Drew's, Spider-Woman's, face for it. So she was the face of the Skrull invasion. And that's something that Jessica has to deal with, moving past this and dealing with, okay, these people think that I was the Skrull who, tried to take over the world. So basically you have them there in Central Park fighting, and Hawkeye's about to, wound her and take her down. And out of the blue, Norman Osborn, who is a part of the Thunderbolts at this point, has a gun that he took, basically information from Deadpool, and created this gun, and got this gun, and shoots Varanki dead. So, in the eyes of the world, because it's been recorded, Norman Osborn is the one who saves the planet. And with that, we have a very interesting turn of events, where you have now kind of villains in ascendancy, and he kind of takes that and runs with it, and it forces the Avengers further underground, makes them run away again, and you have coming out of this, you have a lot of great storylines set up, but before this, one of the big things that happens is you have the Skrulls are like, okay, we got to do something. This is a last ditch effort. And they activate a particle, a trigger that will affect Wasp. Wasp is a size-shifting Avenger, founding Avenger, and she usually just shrinks down. She's been able to shrink, to grow large, but she doesn't do it very often. It's not her thing. But basically, because Skrull Hank Pym messed with her and gave her these extra particles, they basically turned her into a bomb. And so she was, going to be going off, and, they made her, size shift large, and then she was going to explode, and all the energy would basically wipe all the people out. And Thor was able to, stave it off with his hammer, and was able to stop that from happening. But you had, some lasting effects, because at this point, everyone now thinks that Wasp is dead. Basically she died, and it was the Skrull Hank Pym's fault. So it was a bad thing for this. And it was a very, very oh my God, what a moment here. It was a really poignant moment, because it had a lot of effects. They had a requiem for her, and, there was a lasting, effect on him. And it was something that, when the real Hank came back, it really affected him, and it really, drove him to be better and to form his own Avengers and, work on it that way. And so that was really kind of a cool development for that. But so after this, you have Norman Osborn in ascendancy. The president shuts down S.H.I.E.L.D., creates Hammer for Norman Osborn to take over and control. And Norman Osborn creates his own Avengers, which are basically twisted perversions of Avenger, mainstays. And they go around pretending to be masquerading as Avengers. And it's, it's pretty dark, so to speak. But all in all, I really super love this series. It's really great and fun, and has a lot of lasting consequences, which is something a Marvel event should do. Any event should do. But particularly Marvel. This event had a lot of impact going forward, and that was great. And while we didn't get a lot of, repercussions from heroes who've been returned and what that kind of what that meant for them to be replaced and then nobody noticing or whatever, I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of that. That would have been fun. But we did see a couple panels where they were, superhero support groups. So that was kind of cool. And also in the midst of this, you had a really cool crossover, a Secret Invasion tie-in with the New Warriors, where you have the original New Warriors, and then you had the ones who were going by the New Warriors team at the moment, and they're trying to discover, okay, so these Skrulls have been around for a long time. Maybe perhaps Night Thrasher, who was killed in Civil War, maybe he was a Skrull. Maybe he's still alive. And so they go through, a whole bunch of go back and forth and trying to figure out, is he a Skrull? Was he a Skrull? Is he alive? What's going on? And in the end, they discover that no, that was the real Night Thrasher. So that was kind of like a heart heavy moment, because I did love the original New Warriors. So that was kind of a good moment that I enjoyed. Even though it was hard, I was like, oh. But I really love this event. I want to know, have you read Secret Invasion and all of its myriad of tie-ins? What was your favorite part? Were you expecting Norman Osborn to be, the one to take out Varanki? I certainly wasn't, but I really liked the ride that we were on after that. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Sound off and share and subscribe and like. And as always, it's all geek to us, and I'll be back soon with more Marvel event goodness.